Spider-Man No Way Home comes out in just a few days. My girlfriend told me she didn't want to watch 9 movies to properly understand this one. What? I exclaimed, and miss out on all this consistency? So I decided to put together a speedy summary of those movies. One that covers as much as I can per movie without specifically drawing attention to what appears to be relevant information to enjoy and appreciate No Way Home. Hopefully this helps viewers feel informed without setting any expectations going into that movie, other than it will feature characters seen in previous iterations of Spider-Man. First was the Tobey Maguire trilogy. In Spider-Man 1, Peter Parker is a high school senior, he simps for Mary Jane, and eventually becomes Spider-Man. His Uncle Ben gives him the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech, which Peter brushes off. He later lets a thief get away who ironically kills Ben. It's a real bummer. Peter's best friend is Harry Osborn, and he's played by James Franco. It's a real bummer. And his father is Norman Osborn. Norm is another father figure to Peter. Peter graduates and gets a job at the Daily Bugle as a photographer, primarily known for taking pictures of Spider-Man. He has a little bit of an in with the character. His perfectly cast boss, J. Jonah Jameson, tries to slander Spider-Man constantly as a menace. Norman is working on a super serum and takes his experiment too far, uses it on himself, and becomes the Green Goblin. He first tries to align himself with Spider-Man. Spidey refuses, they fight, and Norman ends up learning Spider-Man is Peter. In another fight, the Green Goblin captures MJ, chucks Peter's love interest off a tall tower, and he's able to save her just in the nick of time. Green Goblin attempts to kill Peter, and instead fatally wounds himself. Peter attempts to return Norman's body home, gets spotted by Harry, who swears vengeance upon Spider-Man. On to Spider-Man 2. Peter is deep into being Spider-Man, making that his whole life, and he's estranged from MJ and Harry. Peter latches onto a new father figure, working with nuclear scientist Otto Octavius, operating under Oscorp, which itself is now run and operated by Harry Osborn. Otto octopuses himself, and he needs tritium to continue to exist. Side note, this joke—
what are we gonna call this guy?
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good. But it's taken.
—existed 17 years ago, well before the MCU. And in a fun twist, the director of Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi, is now directing the upcoming Doctor Strange 2, which itself will be more of a sequel to No Way Home than it is a sequel to its own Doctor Strange 1. MJ gets engaged to John Jameson, son of J. Jonah, who still hates Spider-Man. Peter goes full Kiki's delivery service, with his stress causing him to lose his powers. And his life is seemingly better without the power or responsibility. So shove it, Ben. Harry agrees to help a now deranged Octavius obtain his unobtainium in exchange for Spider-Man. Otto kidnaps Mary Jane, as villains tend to do. Harry is prepared to kill Spider-Man until learning it is Peter. Peter gets back his powers, reveals his identity, and convinces Otto to give up his dangerous science stuff. Otto does this, sacrificing himself to stop the nuclear reactor, and Peter saves MJ. Peter 2, villainous father figures 0, although maybe that sets the count at 0-0 with no real winners. There is a cliffhanger where Harry sees a ghost of his father, asking for his death to be avenged. Harry decides a ghost is a better judge of character than himself, and decides he does hate Peter after all. MJ ditches John at the altar, accepting Peter as Spider-Man. Enter Spider-Man 3. MJ immediately moved on, and is now in love with Harry. That reformed relationship sure didn't last long. Harry becomes Green Goblin, and has decided to kill Peter. That reformed friendship sure didn't last long. Never before seen convict Flint Marko becomes Sandman after falling into some radioactive sand or something. And we then learn he was Uncle Ben's true killer 2 movies ago. A symbiote arrives on a meteorite and binds itself to Peter. This causes him to black out both physically and mentally, and he wakes up in this black suit with enhanced powers, and he's now become a real big jerk. Meanie Petey disfigures a disgruntled Harry. Peter exposes Daily Bugle co-worker Eddie Brock as having faked his photos of Spider-Man. Eddie is fired, Peter is promoted. It's good to be bad. Peter starts dating Gwen Stacy and flaunts it in front of MJ. But after basically punching MJ, Peter realizes maybe being bad is in fact bad. Through the sound of church bells, he scares the symbiote away, which then binds to Eddie instead, who becomes Venom. They then team up with Sandman, together capturing MJ again. She's probably used to it by now, right? Harry learns the truth about Spider-Man, that he did not kill Norman. Way to keep that to yourself, dude. And Harry then teams up with Peter to save MJ. Venom is then chased off of Eddie, weakening them both enough for them to be killed. He was never a father figure, but our death count is really stacking up. Sandman reveals that he had a sand daughter, minus the sand. And he says that Ben's death was an accident. Whoops, sorry. So he is forgiven and set free. Harry and Peter hug it out, and Harry dies. MJ and Peter promptly move on together. The end. Now onto Andrew Garfield's pair of Amazing Spider-Man movies. This was a total series reboot. Nothing from the original 3 movies was intended to ever carry forward. We learn that Peter's parents were spies or something dumb. It's very inconsequential. It was obviously meant to pay off in the 3rd movie that was never made, so don't sweat it. Peter's 17 years old, in high school again, and is all flirty with Gwen Stacy, not MJ. Yes, these two are the same character. Back to Oscorp again, we learn Peter's parents worked with Dr. Kurt Connors on cross-species genetics. Here he is bit by the spider that makes him the Man of Spiders. Connors is pushed to continue his research, which is apparently crucial to save the dying Oscorp head, Norman Osborn. So yeah, he's still around, kinda. Peter is again rude to Ben, fails to buy some milk, and then Ben is killed because Peter was stoked on his gift of free milk. Peter decides to become a masked vigilante. His girlfriend's dad, Captain Stacy's, not a fan of that. And with next to no pressure, Peter tells Gwen he is Spider-Man, setting a Spider-Man franchise record for the least amount of time before he reveals his identity. Dr. Connors regrows a mouse's limb using lizard DNA. Crazy, groundbreaking research. But he gets fired anyways for refusing to rush human trials. Bummed out by this, after taking his experiment too far and human trialing himself, he becomes Lizard Man. No, I'm kidding, he's just the lizard. Captain Stacy learns Spider-Man is Peter because basically everyone gets to know this secret identity. The lizard wants to make everyone into lizards for reasons that make sense to his lizard brain. Gwen and Peter create an antidote that saves everyone. Aw, they're so smart. Except for Captain Stacy. He dies. Stacy's dying wish is that Peter leaves Gwen alone. He instantly ignores this. We see Connors in jail. Someone hints at deeper, darker secrets for the Parker family. You can disregard that entirely. On to The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We learn more about the Peter's parents are spies storyline. Again, it doesn't matter much. I think we're lucky we were spared this storyline. Spider-Man dummies this maniac. It matters eventually. Peter and Gwen are graduating high school, but they break up because Peter grows a conscience. Harry enters the picture and reveals he has the same genetic disease as his father. It's a real bummer. This electrical engineer was saved by Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man does like 100 of these per day, but this guy's only getting saved something like probably once a day. So, you know, it means more to him than it does to Peter. There's an experiment that's taken too far. He's unintentionally shocked by some radioactive electricity or something and becomes Electro. Spidey beats him up and stops him from being too big of a fanboy. Harry just kind of decides that Spider-Man blood is going to be the key to saving him and asks for Peter's help since he's known to take pictures of the old wall crawler. Peter refuses, scared it'll be a repeat of Dr. Connors' mutations. Harry finds Norman's weapons and shoots himself up with some smashed up spiders, taking his experiment too far, using it on himself, and becoming the Green Goblin. Gwen is leaving to attend Oxford. Peter agrees to leave everything behind to go with her. Oh, but Electro's back, dun dun dun! They team up once more to fight Electro, for some reason putting Gwen in the position of sidekick, and they kill Electricity Man through his one weakness: too much electricity. Harry learns Peter is Spider-Man, and he chucks Gwen off the tower. Peter subdues Harry, but is a moment too late to save Gwen. It's a bummer. Many teases are laid for an eventual Sinister Six. You can disregard that entirely. Peter is now back to fully being Spider-Man. This maniac is back and suits up as a mechanized rhino. I'll give you 3 guesses what his name is. Hint, it's not Rhino Man. The end. Here's your too long did not read of the Spider-Man character rights, which Sony controlled for those previous 5 movies. They then loaned the character of Spider-Man to Marvel to use in the MCU, but while agreeing to that, decided to develop their own Spider-Man universe that has nothing to do with Spider-Man, announcing about a dozen movies all at once and then only making Venom, because all of the ideas were bad. While trying to somehow prove that they both desperately needed and didn't need Marvel at all, Sony made a pair of 2 Venom movies. These movies were made with no official connections to the MCU or any of the previous versions of Spider-Man. Who knows what their plan is over there? I don't even think they do. A symbiote is brought to Earth. It needs people to survive, so it binds to a bunch of them, but it kills them all over time. A classic symbiotic relationship where both partners benefit. Eddie Brock is here, this time as an investigative journalist. His fiancée is a lawyer acting to defend the company he's investigating. As Eddie pursues an investigation on their study of the symbiotes, Eddie and his fiancée both lose their jobs. Eddie keeps on researching and eventually becomes bound to the symbiote.
We call them symbiotes.
It gives him a bunch of goopy powers that have nothing to do with Spider-Man, I swear. When the science jerks try to retrieve it, he turns into Black Goo Man, using its powers to defend itself and Eddie. The goo reveals itself to be Venom, and they become 2 peas in a pod. Except for the part where Venom is still slowly killing Eddie. Eddie behaves consistently like a perfectly rational human being. Venom 2.0 shows up, binding to the head of Evil Corp that Eddie was investigating. The 2 symbiotes have a CGI fight that looks like throwing slime at goop at nighttime. These two die, and everyone thinks Venom died. But just kidding, he's still around, and I guess just decided to stop slowly killing Eddie. That's probably for the best. Eddie gets his job back, and the post-credit scene shows Woody Harrelson in the worst wig ever plotting to escape from jail, promising carnage. Now, in the recent sequel, Venom Let There Be Carnage, I wonder how long it took to cook that title up, Cletus Cassidy potentially has a worse wig than ever. I think they were really just trying to prove that they could, you know? He has a girlfriend who can shriek loudly, and they call her Shriek. Eddie agrees to an interview with Cletus serial killer Cassidy. Venom uses his sweet, well-established art skills to find where Cletus buried the bodies of his victims. And through a combination of biting Eddie and lethal injection liquid, we create a brand new red symbiote. Eddie's ex-fiancée is engaged, and I guess does know Venom still exists. She's not in this movie very much, and is basically an entirely different character. Venom's #1 priority in life is to eat heads. He refers to himself as the lethal protector about 16 times to make sure you know that he knows the comics. And they split up, leading to some separation anxiety. Yeah, 2 people can claim to know the comics Venom. Venom body hops a bunch, seemingly killing dozens of people. I guess that's the anti of his anti-hero story. He basically has a coming out party, but realizes that he misses Eddie. Sorry, I meant to say Eddie. Venom and Carnage fight like some sludge being thrown at some mud at dusk, slightly more comprehensible than the last CGI showdown of 2 shiny slimes. Cassidy gets his head eaten, and Carnage is eaten too, because Spider-Man movies love killing villains and abandoning sequel potential. At least via returning characters, as they take the time to set up the introduction of Toxin. Shriek is completely irrelevant to the story and was entirely there for sequel bait. Venom reveals that he's a multi-dimensional being, and the movie seemingly ends with him randomly being teleported to the MCU. Now onto Tom Holland's series, starting with Spider-Man Homecoming, because Spider-Man returned to Marvel. Get it? As a reminder, Spider-Man was first introduced in Civil War to flaunt the newly struck deal with Sony. He's in and out pretty quick, quipping his way through. It's a good time. We're fast-forwarding through Ben and him earning his powers, because those plot points are unimportant. Really, we just didn't want to see them for a 3rd time. Not Batman scavenges the wreckage of the first Avengers movie, like a buzzard. I mean Vulture. He first was doing this as a job, but ironically had this taken away from him by the Avengers, who they themselves have made the mess. He's now out of work and unable to provide for his family. A relatable character motivation for a Spider-Man villain? Unheard of. Peter is actually a teen this time, only 15 years old. He does some fun neighborhoody Spider-Man stuff. It's a good time.
Don't flip!
And his friend Ned learns his secret identity. This movie has backdoor introductions to the characters of Shocker, the Tinkerer, the Prowler, Scorpion, and Miles Morales, deeply ingraining Spider-Man into this universe in case Sony ever tried to take it back, or if they tried to create one of their many ill-advised attempted solo movies. Spoiler, within this full spoiler video, that doesn't matter much anymore. Seems like both universes are now coming together. Peter has a lot of difficulty managing his time, which causes problems. This tower falls down, this boat breaks apart, he gets a scolding from his father figure, and is back to being low-tech newbie Spidey, all on his own. Don't worry, that's short-lived. We learn that Spidey's crush's dad is the Vulture. That sounds stupid when I say it like that, it's a very good twist. In their final showdown, Peter does everything he can to save Adrian from himself. He fails, but no one actually dies this time. Instead, Adrian is now in jail. It is teased that the Scorpion wants to know who Spider-Man is, but don't worry about that, it's never come up again since. Peter is offered the chance to become an Avenger. He says no. Just kidding. Circumstances immediately lead to him needing to be an Avenger. He goes to space, fights a universe-level threat in only his 3rd movie appearance, becomes Dust, stops being Dust, and is back to kicking it at school with a nanotech suit, never to be a minor neighborhood-level character again. That was short-lived. Also, his father figure died again, and he made friends with a wizard. Next, we have Spider-Man Far From Home, because they really committed to that whole home naming shtick. Big monsters made out of sand, water, and other elements are attacking the world. No, this one is not Sandman. We have a new love interest who is neither Mary Jane nor Gwen Stacy, but her name is MJ. Try to keep up. Peter goes on a vacation, because these movies apparently hate doing many of the fundamentals of this small-scale New York-based hero. All the trouble seems to follow him here, and even though Spider-Man is globally available to save these high schoolers, they never seem to figure out that Peter is Spider-Man. Except for MJ. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Quentin Beck, now named Mysterio, warns everyone that there is a multiverse-level threat, something that at the time was not a real thing. Another spoiler in a full-on spoiler video. Yeah, the multiverse is a real deal now. Peter trusts him implicitly and gives him the keys to billions of dollars worth of Stark tech. We learn Quentin is a con man who used tricks.
Illusion, Michael. Trick is something a whore does for money.
To create the elementals, all to earn Peter's trust. Quentin outsmarts Spider-Man repeatedly. He's again eventually bailed out by his very rich friends until he Spider-Sense ninjas him and saves the day. And the movie ends with J. Jonah Jameson. Same actor, same name, different character, which I know isn't confusing at all. Welcome to the multiverse. Jameson reveals Peter Parker is Spider-Man to the entire world. Also, Nick Fury was there, but it wasn't actually Nick Fury. You probably don't have to worry about that plot point. And very shortly after, with the Loki TV show, it was confirmed that the multiverse is in fact real. So it not being real for one movie was rather short-lived and inconsequential. And now we know from trailers of the upcoming Morbius that for some reason Vulture is going to be in that movie. So yeah, thanks Sony for just mashing these universes together so willy-nilly. I'm sure that'll pay off great dividends storytelling-wise. And not a single person will be confused because of this video. Glad I could clear that up for everyone. Also in that trailer we see pictures of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man on the wall and the Amazing Spider-Man's version of the Daily Bugle. Who knows what they're doing? There you have it. Summaries of I think every movie that will be relevant to No Way Home. I love the character of Spider-Man. The majority of these movies have a special place in my heart, and so while I'm making fun of them a little bit through the framing of this video, I do actually legitimately really love the character. In the end cards of this video, I'll include links to a video on the history of the character of Spider-Man and a theory video I made on a potential Sony Marvel crossover that I made years ago. I hope you feel fully prepared for No Way Home. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to patrons of the channel, and I hope to see you all again soon.